So President Trump has hit the ground running, issuing a whole series of executive orders, and some of them have related to Israel. And I want to read to you some of the things that he has signed today in the Oval Office. First of all, he has revoked the Executive Order 14115, which had sanctioned certain Israeli settlers. I hate that term, to be honest, because Jews have a right to live in Judea and Samaria. They're not settlers. Settlers sounds like they're some kind of colonialists in some kind of way. Also, it's total foreign interference in a functioning democracy. This is, issues. If they have issues, let Israel deal with, use the rule of law to deal with those kind of things. If there's any kind of agitation or violence or anything like that. So it's totally ridiculous, these sanctions, and you don't do that for friends, for countries that, as I say, have functioning courts and democratic systems. Number 2, Trump has restored sanctions on the International Criminal Court, reversing their cancellation under Biden. Let's not forget that the ICC was accusing Israel and Israel's leaders of committing war crimes, genocide. Absolutely absurd. The corruption was so clear from the fact that the whole panel had already shown a deeply anti-Israel bias where they accused Israel of genocide before the war had hardly even begun. So that's really important. Number 3, there's a 90-day pause was placed on all US foreign developmental assistance programs to review their alignment with the administration's policy, e.g. UNRWA. UNRWA, okay, their funding being withdrawn. Utterly essential, sane, what needs to be done when they had deep, deep complicity with Hamas, particularly with regard to October 7th. Number 4, also let's not forget the brainwashing of children to become martyrs, which occurs in UNRWA schools. Number 4, Trump authorized the deportation of visa holders who support hateful ideologies, terrorism, or national security threats, such as individuals involved in pro-Hamas protests, riots, or fundraising efforts. Again, common sense, but we've seen so much of this. Pro-Hamas students, activists have been far too legitimized in colleges and out on the streets as protesting. This should be treated no different to waving an ISIS or an Al-Qaeda flag. It's the same thing. It's the same kind of radical, hateful, Islamist terror support, and it shouldn't be tolerated. This is great. There's been far too much legitimacy given and saying, they're just, you've got the pro-Israel side, you've got the pro-Hamas side. No. Number 5, the administration has lifted restrictions on arms sales to Israel, including the supply of 2,000-pound bombs to reaffirm US support for Israel's defense. To be clear, Trump did not sign an executive order on the arms shipments because he doesn't have to. Rather, he's expected to simply stop the artificial delays imposed by Biden. Again, this is sanity. Ultimately, Israel should be given whatever she needs to do if they have agreement, they're purchasing them from America. When Israel is a functioning, moral nation, and if whatever kind of artillery they need, particularly as they are upholding international law and morality, they should be given the right to purchase those arms to protect themselves. Israel is acting throughout this war in a way that is clearly focused on targeting Hamas, getting rid of the enemies, sometimes in ways of targeting that we couldn't even begin to imagine. But sometimes there are all kinds of types of munitions and arms that are needed, depending on the specific circumstances. And also the messages that it sends when America has such conditional support for an ally that is fighting a radical jihadist terror group is so bad for America, not just Israel, because it shows weakness. So what Trump has done with these 5 things is shown a great deal of strength and willingness to stand side by side with the Jewish state. So this is really important stuff. And I want to go back to what Netanyahu said as the ceasefire was implemented, because he was saying that this is temporary and Israel will have the full backing to resume the war in Gaza should they decide to, saying that Trump is going to lift all the remaining restrictions on US munitions, allowing Israel to resume the war with tremendous force. This was said on the 18th of January, 2 days before the inauguration. And I want to review just what Netanyahu said, because it is my sincere hope that Israel certainly does not leave Gaza in a place where Hamas can still be in charge. That would be utterly catastrophic. Let's see what he says and see if we can decipher the message.
Since he was elected, Trump was completely committed to the release of the hostages. We spoke on Wednesday. He congratulated me on the agreement, and he emphasized, and rightly so, that the first stage is a temporary ceasefire. This is what he said, a temporary ceasefire. Towards the next stages of the agreement, we are holding on to some significant assets so that we can bring back all of the hostages, and in order to accomplish all the goals of the war. Both President Trump and President Biden have provided full backing to Israel's right to resume fighting, to resume combat, if Israel reaches the conclusion that the negotiations over the second stage are pointless. I truly appreciate that. I also appreciate the decision of President Trump to lift all the remaining restrictions on the providing of essential munitions and weapons to the State of Israel. If we need to resume combat, we will do so in new ways, and we will do so with tremendous force.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I sort of think that there's clearly more going on than meets the eye. I don't know what kind of calculations Netanyahu has been making in agreeing to this deal, which seems like a really terrible deal. I kind of want to be optimistic and think maybe there's a deeper plan here, but we've released terrorists in the past in exchange for hostages, and there was not something deeper going on here, and it was catastrophic. Sinwar was released in exchange for Gilad Shalit, who I was delighted was released. But the price and the message it sends is extremely high. So we're going to have to see. We'll have to see what's actually going on here. It could be Netanyahu's playing a game where he's just waiting and biding his time. Sorry for that pun. Very poor of me. But maybe he was just waiting until Trump got into office, because the message Trump seems to be saying loud and clear is this is Israel's war to finish. And he seemed, when he was interviewed in the Oval Office just a few hours ago, he said, I don't know if this ceasefire will last. And he seemed pretty calm about that. There seems to be quite good messaging coming out from the Trump side, but as with all of this, it's all quite unpredictable. And we're going to be at the forefront on JTV of keeping you up to date and providing not just the information perspective, but a moral perspective as well, because moral clarity is what we need more than ever today. And it's not just about politicians and be concerned about them. If enough people on the ground have that moral clarity, that will make its way towards the politicians too. Hi, thank you so much for watching. To watch another one, click here. To stay up to date with all our content, click here to subscribe. And if you're able to, you can help support JTV to grow and grow by clicking join below this video, where you can become a member and get perks including early access to videos and private live discussions with me. But most of all, you'll be partnering with us on our mission to change the world.